You might have noticed that I kinda like using razor blade knives. I think they're pretty much the most versatile tool on the planet. Like, if I had to survive an apocalypse with only one tool, a razor blade utility knife would be it. I've been carrying one pretty much every day for the last 14 years. But not all razor knives are created equal. I've tested quite a few different styles over the years. Some are just built super cheap and have all kinds of wiggles, which is not really something you want while holding a razor-sharp object. Other knives are large and bulky, with components or the whole thing being made of plastic. And when I'm looking for a good tool, I want it to be solid, cheap, easy to use, but still look cool enough to carry every single day, which is why I've gone and designed my own. And of course, I'm a little bit biased, but this really is my favorite knife that I've ever owned, and I think you'll like it as well. People have always asked me if I've ever accidentally cut myself with a razor, and I think today's a good time for that discussion. Let's get started. I have a few scars on my hands from various projects over the years. This one over here was from accidentally dropping a big rock on my finger as a Boy Scout. But the one over here on my left thumb is probably the most noticeable. This happened when I was about 8 or 9 years old. I was using a coping saw, one that I got from my grandpa Jerry, to cut flying pencil people out of wood. You know, because that sounded like a fun project at the time. I mean, it still sounds like a fun project. But the saw was really sharp and cut through that last inch of wood way faster than I anticipated and went right into my finger. And I did have to go get a few stitches. But up to this point, I've still never cut myself with a razor blade. I have, however, cut myself pretty bad with a dull metal pry tool while I was recording a video. But I've never shown that footage until now. It's not super gruesome. I do pull my finger out of the frame before any real damage gets shown, but if you get queasy, you might want to fast forward about 30 seconds. I sliced myself during my floating Death Star speaker video about 2 years ago. If you watch the first half of the video, my thumb is perfectly fine and in one piece like thumbs should be. And what I'm showing you now is for educational purposes, since it's not always the sharp knives that get you, it's the dull knives. And this completely dull pry tool sliced into my thumb so deeply, it was not my lucky day, that I had to stop filming for a week while it healed enough for me to continue and finish the video. Long story short, don't mess with the Death Star. But I've still yet to take damage from a razor blade, knock on wood. I've been working on my newest knife for the past year. You've probably seen it in some of my more recent videos. It's my own creation, and I'm pretty excited about it. The first thing you'll notice out of the box is the striking tessellated hexagonal pattern that gleams differently in the light depending on its position. You might be asking, hey Jerry, did you borrow that texture from D-Brand's Swarm Skin? And all I'm saying is that these tessellations, found very, very commonly all over the place in nature, and maybe on D-Brand's website, provide excellent grip while still looking way cool. The JerryRig knife has solid metal construction. The handle is cast from an aluminum and zinc alloy, giving it a heavy, substantial feeling in the hand that'll last for years. I've gotten pretty used to opening and closing my knives with one hand, but just like with any knife, if your fingers are in the weight of the blade as it's closing, you can just say goodbye to your fingers. Especially since razor blades are sharp. Razors are razors, and razors cut stuff. Like, it'll literally slice off your entire finger if you're not paying attention. And I don't want any angry emails from moms of 9-fingered kids, so use the knife at your own risk. With the solid metal construction, there is no wiggle between the handle and the razor holster, which is very important. My favorite part of this utility knife, though, is the quick-release blade system. Anytime your knife gets dull, the blade can be flipped over and put back in, or just replaced entirely. The replacement razor blades are universal, found all over the world, and cost only pennies. There's nothing proprietary here, just like it should be. A spring-loaded locking mechanism holds the blade tightly inside the body of the knife when it's closed, and it won't be falling open on its own. And of course, this wouldn't be a JerryRig Everything video if I didn't show you how it all works from the inside. If you want to snag one of these for yourself, just head over to JerryRigKnife.com or click the link down in the description. The knife handle is held in place by a Torx T7 screw. Torx screws are used a lot in cell phones because the extra fins give the screwdrivers more grip on the head, and more torque can be applied to the screw itself, meaning there's more grip on the parts being held together. We've got one beefy screw acting as the fulcrum for the locking lever, and 2 more screws down at the bottom. holding the end piece with the solid metal rod acting as a spring. The metal rod pushes up against the locking lever to click the knife opened, as well as holding it closed when the knife is shut. I'll give you a better look at that in a second. The pivot point for the razor holster is actually pretty interesting, and I'm not making this up. The joint we are using is called a sex bolt. I'll explain why when you're older. There are two parts, one part that's smooth and allows the knife part to rotate inside of the handle, and another part that's threaded, which goes inside the other portion to clamp everything together. The smooth shoulder keeps the threaded screw from tightening too far and restricting the knife's movement. The white washers are also there to keep things rotating smoothly. The reason I'm showing you all of this is so we can see how it works, as well as if you ever want to customize the knife yourself, you totally can. You know, life is a DIY project. The part that holds the razor is also pretty interesting. The top plate is held in place by 3 more of those T7 screws, and then we get a look at the all-metal quick release button for the razor blade. It's got 2 little springs on the back that push it up to lock the blade into place. And once that release button is pressed down, the blade can slide freely out to be rotated or swapped for a new one. It's like getting a whole new knife for only 10 cents each time you pop in a new blade. There's also a little stabilizing metal band along the bottom to keep the actual razor from jiggling from side to side in the enclosure. We've added a lot of details to make this a quality contraption. The belt clip can also be removed. Pocket knives can sometimes be really expensive, but I'm keeping mine cheap enough so that losing one won't break the bank. Over the years, I've lost about 4 or 5 of these knives to the TSA when I forget it's in my pocket while traveling. Sometimes I can just throw out the razor blade part and they'll let me keep the knife handle. But other times they've made me get rid of the whole knife, which is annoying, but at the same time not a deal breaker since the knife isn't all that expensive to begin with. This is what the knife looks like inside of the handle. I did contemplate making a clear version, but I really wanted to avoid plastic, and transparent aluminum or aluminum oxynitride would have raised the price of the knife by a few $100s, so we'll have to wait a little while longer for that transparent edition. These knives are ready to ship though. You can set yours on a shelf like a trophy and keep it all pretty as some sweet JerryRigEverything swag, or you can get it all scratched up and dirty like the tool it was designed to be. Or maybe buy 2 and do both. JerryRigKnife.com. Whatever you do though, stay away from flying pencil people and the Death Star. They are both pretty dangerous. Show me your knives when we hang out on Instagram and Twitter, and thanks a ton for watching. I'll see you around.